Hello, welcome to the show. I got quite a few things on here to go over. So, French government faces collapse as left and far right submit no confidence motions. I've got other things. I've got topics like Joseph Biden pardoned his son. The first transgender attorney argues before the Supreme Court, challenging healthcare bans for minors. And quite a few other things. So if that interests you, please hit like and subscribe. Follow my channel for continued content, and hope you enjoy the show. So let's get started. French government faces collapse as left and far right submit no confidence motions. So, by Elizabeth Pinot and Ingrid Melander, Paris. The French government is all but certain to collapse later this week after far-right and left-wing parties submit no confidence motions on Monday against Prime Minister Michel Barnier. Investors immediately punished French assets as the latest developments plunged the Eurozone's second biggest economy deepest into a political crisis, with serious doubt cast over whether the annual budget will be approved. The French have had enough, National Rally leader Marine Le Pen told reporters in Parliament, saying Barnier, who only became prime minister in early September, had made things worse and needed to be pushed out. We are promising a motion of no confidence against the government. So this would be Madame Le Pen, the far right, possibly even fascist leader. Barring a last-minute surprise, Barnier's fragile coalition will be the first French government to be forced out by a no-confidence vote since 1962. Damn. So they're about to kick out Barnier's. Government collapse would leave a hole at the heart of Europe, with Germany also in election mode. Weeks ahead of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's re-entering the White House, RN lawmakers and the left combined have enough votes to topple Barnier, and Le Pen's confirmed her party would vote for the left-wing coalition's no-confidence bill on top of the RN's own bill. That vote is likely to be held on Wednesday. Jesus. See, I have my passport coming because the idea is if I have to flee the United States, because I know quite a bit of French, I could either take me and my partner, we can go to Quebec, or we can go to France. But if that's not an option, well, then it's time to start ramping up my learning of Spanish, so that I can put Mexico and Spain on the options list of potential places to go, because this is crazy. They're about to vote out their fucking government, and we're not even talking about voting out as in a change in administration. We're talking about, what was it? Topple Barnier. This vote. The first a government collapse. Like holy Jesus. Faced with this umpteenth denial of democracy, we will censure the government, said Mathalide Panot of the left-wing France Unbowed. We are living in political chaos because of Michel Barnier's government and Emmanuel Macron's presidency. The spread between French bonds and German benchmarks widened further, and a self-off in the euro gathered pace. Since Macron called snap elections in early June, France's CAC 40 has dropped nearly 10% and is the heaviest faller among top EU economies. It closed flat on Monday after dipping over 1% earlier in the day. So apparently they have places to people to blame, so let's see who they go for. Barnier urged lawmakers not to back the no-confidence vote. We are at a moment of truth. The French will not give us Forgive us for putting the interest of individuals before the future of the country, he said as he put his government's fate in the hands of the divided parliament, which was the result of an inconclusive snap election Macron called in June. Barnier's minority government had relied on RN support for its survival. The budget bill, which seeks to rein in France's spiraling public deficit through 60 billion euros in tax hikes and spending cuts, snapped that tenuous link. Barnier's entourage and Le Pen's camp each blamed the other and said they had done all they could to reach a deal and been open to dialogue. A source close to Barnier said the Prime Minister had made major concessions to Le Pen and that voting to bring down the government would mean losing those gains. So if the no-confidence vote does indeed go through, Barnier would have to tender his resignation, but Macron may ask him and his government to stay on in a caretaker role. So basically what's going on here is if they're voted out by a no-confidence vote and Macron tells them to stay, then basically they could stay in a caretaker role to... Okay. So what happens after he seeks a new prime minister? Maybe somebody from France can clarify that one day. Let's see. One option would be for Macron to name a government of technocrats with no political program, hoping that could help survive a no-confidence vote. In any case, there can be no new snap parliamentary elections before July. So... what is the budget that they want to adopt? I mean, to be fair, I don't know. I don't even think I really need to...
Smith, thanks for being with us and your time.
To look it up.
Can I start by asking
it's probably just the same right-wing bullshit.
Unusual,
cut taxes on the rich and defund Medicaid and Medicare
and far right
social programs.
And the left team up to try and bring the Prime Minister down.
Well, it's unusual in that we know how strongly they are opposed to each other in political terms. But ultimately, what they're trying to do is both to put pressure on the government. And while it seems unusual to see them kind of aligning together, I think what's more unusual is almost to see the government bending to the whims of the far right. At the minute, I think there's a real issue. The Barnier government has this kind of big debate between expediency and decency. How much can it bend? How much can it give in terms of this negotiation around the budget to the far right without actually looking like it's in alliance and governing in alliance with the far right? We've seen already Marine Le Pen's party has made demands about dropping taxes on electricity. They're trying to make demands around kind of pensions, demands around all sorts of other things, medication, for example, which the government is trying to use as part of this kind of austerity drive to make savings. And we saw on Friday, of course, international markets like Standard & Poor's kind of maintained France's rating, but very much placed an emphasis on the fact that Barnier had to deliver those promises of austerity. And already we can see international markets, the way that banks lend to France is starting to kind of pull apart from the way they lend to Germany, for example. And France is very much borrowing on the same type of structures as Greece. So we can see internationally there's a lot of pressure on this budget, but obviously domestically as well. There's a lot of sense that this budget needs to deliver because there's a huge amount of anger against the government in particular.
Indeed, and as you say, a fine balance in how much do you concede and how much will your action strengthen or weaken the opposition parties in Parliament. Marine Le Pen, it is the the largest individual party in the French Parliament now. Do you see this party, which for so long had been in the opposition, do you think it's now moving towards a position to be ready to govern?
Well, it very much wants to cast itself as being, of course, the dédiabolisé, like detoxified and all the rest of it. But of course, recently we've seen exactly the reasons that toxification is really, detoxification is a mirage. Marine Le Pen, of course, standing trial at the moment, and we've heard about the
standing trial? Since when did Marine Le Pen do something like illegal or something? Since when is she... Hang on. What does she do? Marine Le Pen's trial is ending with one key question. Will France's leading far-right figure be able to run in the next presidential race? Excuse me. Her lawyer spoke Wednesday for the last time at the trial in Paris on charges of embezzling European Parliament funds. Oh. So stealing from the... Okay. Basically robbing the Parliament. It's not as interesting as I thought it would be. It's probably why we never heard of it. But then again, it's also French news. So basically, what do all far-right leaders have in common? They basically want to do everything they can in order to take full advantage of their position within the government and engage in corruption. They want to cut taxes for the rich. They want to deregulate. They want to do all these horrendous things. They want to make your life a living hell. And if you give them too much power, they might even take away your rights as an LGBT person, as a woman, as a person of color. You know how it goes.
Possibility of her being excluded from politics when that trial rules next March. The corruption that's been accused, that kind of dirty politics behind all of it, is a sign of what's to come with that type of party. And this is a real strategic thing from them as well. This is the maximum leverage they have over the government. This is the big moment when they can make their presence felt, the sort of the gravity, the pull they're exerting on the government's policies. Because, of course, if they join together, if they vote the government out, you need to put a new government together, it might well rob them of that power to lean on the government at the same time. And so this is useful. It helps draw attention, political attention, away from Marine Le Pen's trial. It helps exert more of their priorities on the government. And it helps kind of create this image of chaos in Parliament, which I think is very useful, to the far right in terms of leveraging and ratcheting up that tension. It's really a strategy of tension, I think, from the far right to try and impose themselves upon the governmental agenda.
Because indeed, should Michel Barnier decide to push through this budget without a vote in Parliament, and then we see the parties come together, the opposition come together to vote no confidence, France can't hold more legislative elections for another year. So, how bad could it get for France then? They'd be left in stalemate.
Well, it's a real challenge. We are, at the moment, trapped in the structures of the Fifth Republic, reliving a crisis from the Fourth Republic of cabinet instability, while many of its politicians sort of cosplay a psychodrama of the Third Republic of the extreme right and extreme left. Of course, the last time a government like this fell to a motion of censure...
The Third Republic of the extreme... Is the Third Republic of France. System of government adopted in France from September 4th, 1870. When the okay. All right. So yeah. All right.
Back in October 1962, when Georges Pompidou, as Prime Minister for President Charles de Gaulle, fell. Of course, what happened then? De Gaulle dissolved the Assembly. Macron has already done that. He's used that card already. A dissolution is not going to happen. What are we left with instead then? Well, we know there are kind of provisions to try and kind of bump over the last year's budget. That'll have problems in terms of inflation, in terms of international obligations, in terms of Europe and so on. But likewise, the government will try to use, of course, 49.3. We know this very well to pass it. That's what's going to open it up to the motion of censure. Down the line, there's the potential of what we know as Article 47, which might allow the government to promulgate a finance bill if it's been debated for 70 days without a vote. That's a challenge because if the government falls, bills should fall with it. There's a big debate around constitutional law in terms of that. But I think what we're seeing here is a stress testing of the Fifth Republic Constitution. This is, I think, in part the result of governing by decree, that 49.3, of failing to build those alliances in the Assembly, instead passing that debate to the Senate where it's more favourable to the government. And this is really the difficulty of trying to govern with these types of tactics. We saw, of course, last Thursday, as debates raged into the late into night and Thursday, there was nearly blows in Parliament between a centrist and a socialist deputy. So this is high-tension politics. This is, really a moment of extreme stress. But we hear that Michel Barnier is zen-like at its centre. So whatever falls.
So basically, he's essentially one of the most milquetoast liberals you can imagine. One of the most boring essentially this guy sucks the life out of you because it's not that he has nothing. It's that he has negative something. And that, in other words, he has so little that whatever you have, he's sucking it out of you. That's just how it is. So because of that, now France is in the same situation that we were before we chose fascism, and so you have to choose between the far left and the far right. So France, le choix est pour toi. You should not learn from our mistake. Don't elect a fascist leader like we did. Learn from our mistakes, please. Get your shit together, please.
Calm face, try to push this through. And, well, I think there's a lot to come this week, and we'll know by Wednesday, one way or another, if this government will stand or fall.
Indeed. And then, even here in France, Andrew, before we let you go, some people are saying that it's not even Michel Barnier should be the one that should go, but Emmanuel Macron himself.
Well, absolutely. The electoral kind of path to this is, there is no possibility for a legislative election. And people are clinging on to this idea, maybe Emmanuel Macron would somehow resign and open himself up to a presidential election. Personally, I think that is extremely unlikely. Emmanuel Macron is under no compulsion to do so. The idea under the Fifth Republic of the president is that this sort of, parliamentary mess beneath the president is meant to sort of insulate the president from this. So there is no kind of direct trigger that would say this. It would have to be an act of kind of real kind of political attempt to kind of impose oneself and accept responsibility, etc., etc. But I think Macron will see this as being the problems of the Prime Minister. And, as we know, if the Prime Minister has a problem, you can always have another. So this is the difficulty, I think. The President, I think, very unlikely to open himself up to that type of vote until 2027, when he is actually, constitutionally forced to do so. I think this is very much a problem of Parliament and very much a problem for the Prime Minister.
Andrew Smith, Queen Mary University, thanks very much indeed for joining us here.
If you enjoyed this segment, please feel free to like and subscribe, share my video, and so leave a comment and follow me on Patreon, on Twitch, on Blue Sky. Feel free to join my Discord server. I got a lovely community growing over there. And I'll see you in the next segment. Thanks. Bye.
I've heard bad things, terrible things about the Queen Matriarch. She wants to radicalize your kids into communism and give people healthcare and free lunch. It's terrible. So definitely do not watch her show. Her politics are bad, the worst you've ever heard. So definitely do not subscribe to her on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, or follow her on Blue Sky or X, or join her Discord server, or fund her Patreon. Links in the description below.